Welcome to Behind the Seal. You are listening to part one of a two-part episode.
Hi, Secretary of State Denny Hoskins here. Welcome to Behind the Seal, where we try and focus on government transparency. Today's topic is elections and election integrity. I'm joined here today by our guest, Nick Strada, who is our Director of Election Integrity, to discuss things that we're doing in elections, things we're doing here in the Secretary of State's office, and how we're trying to make sure that our elections are safe and secure. So welcome, Nick.
Thank you very much, Secretary, and just a pleasure to be in here, and it's an honor. It's a true honor.
Well, thank you.
So I'm excited, and it's been 9 months into this whole thing, and as you already know, previously I was a local election authority,
yes.
And so
in Pettis County.
Yeah,
how many years?
14, a little over 14 years.
14 years, yes.
Yeah, so it's been quite the run, and then obviously got the phone call, and then I had to really think this whole thing over, and I'm like, what do I do here? And honestly, it was one of those things I believed in your vision, and I still do. And so this is it's been quite the learning curve for me,
right?
Because it's a whole different spectrum from running the elections and being in the trenches, and then kind of coming outside of it, and then trying to obviously help all of our local election authorities throughout the process.
When I made that call, you and I have known each other for quite some time and been friends, and I wanted to have an actual county clerk or local election authority on staff, and whether that was one that was retired or that I guess forced into retirement for coming over to the Secretary of State's office. So just the experience that you bring, having been down in the weeds, not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, and ran elections, as well as you're friends with all the other local election authorities and county clerks, both Republican and Democrat.
Right.
And so I know you're very highly respected in their circle, and we're glad to have you at the Secretary of State's office.
When this whole position kind of came up, election integrity, and the way I envision this, and I want to emphasize, integrity means a lot to me.
Yes.
Integrity, you can just go around and say, I have integrity. But integrity is what you can show in the forefront, but it's what you do behind closed doors.
Right.
And that's what integrity is. And that's what we have brought to this office, and that's what we're doing. And not only that, our local election authorities are doing that too.
Exactly.
And I firmly do believe that. They're good people, and they're doing everything they humanly can possible to make sure that that we have good voter rolls. And those are big topics that we're going to talk about today.
That's right, yeah, big topics that we are going to talk about today. And so that's one of the campaign promises that I'd made, is to make sure that we audit the voter rolls. As we're both aware, it says that we will regularly maintain the voter rolls,
yes.
But there's no definition of regularly in state law. And so is that once a day, once a month, once every 10 years when we do the census? So talk a little bit about what we've been focusing on, and you in particular, as far as auditing the voter rolls.
Yeah, so we're very fortunate here in the state of Missouri that we have 116 jurisdictions, and we have a full VR list.
Right.
A lot of different states don't have that. They have homegrown lists, so they can have one county that has one VR list, another one that's different. So here in the state of Missouri, things are a lot more controlled, which is not in a controlling way, but it's good that we have that, because we can see when someone does move, or obviously someone that needs to be merged due to a duplicate, and then obviously, a deceased people. So we are very fortunate to have that. But that being said, that is something that I'm going to just be very bold and say, it's nothing against the previous administrations. And this is something that under your administration that you have brought, is saying, hey, Nick, and not just me, everybody, is that this is what I want to do.
Right.
And you want to make sure that we're cleaning up these roles. And that's what we're doing. I mean, we are at a record breaking from 2008. I've been keeping track of that because, and, people are wonder why that is, when people are, making sure people are getting deleted.
Yes.
Well, number one thing is we don't want to have dead people voting.
That's right.
As of today, we're at a little over 51,000 people that have been deleted, just deceased.
Yes.
And so statistically right now, we'll end up hitting over 71,000. So that's going to end up beating the record.
Right.
And we will legitimately have the most people ever, deceased voters, be removed off the list in Missouri history. So statistically, we will end up abolishing and killing this record for about 8,300 people.
Wow.
And it's one of those things, well, how's this or how's that? And if you, again, if you look at the different numbers, you'll usually see it on odd years because that's when your local election authorities have a lot more time. Because
Yes.
I know exactly what's going on right now, what they're dealing with. They're dealing with payroll, they're dealing with bills, they're dealing with property taxes, trying to
Right.
get everything done, and they got so many different hats. And it's tough. It really is. It's tough. You're running the election, and then there's never a dull moment in as a local election authority. So, but that being said, it's all about open dialect and letting them know, hey, we have these tools. And I really want to emphasize something I've learned being here is that our IT department,
Yes.
holy cow,
They're top notch.
they're top notch. I mean, these guys, you ask and you receive, and it's unbelievable. So that being said, it's been really good to make sure that we have that open dialect.
Right.
And that was something that we've had an issue with a lot of previous secretaries, and it's nothing personal, is making sure that a local election authority can call and get an answer, rather than going, oh, just call your other local election
Right.
authority. So here it's not about giving the bureaucratic answer. It's about giving, hey, I might not know the answer, but I'm going to get back with you.
Right.
And and I think that they do appreciate that. Are we going to make everybody happy? Of course not.
That's right.
But we're gonna agree to disagree, and we're gonna move forward. And that's a huge problem, as me and you both know, with our country right now. And so it's been huge to work with not only the elections division here, but the IT department at the back end. I always call it like the Wizard of Oz, or like the people behind
That's right. Behind the scenes.
behind
Yes.
the scenes, and they get our DHSS records, which is our vital records, and then obviously our SSA records. So coming out with that robust list, letting local election authorities know, hey, go to your SSRS list, and you can not only just use your obituaries, you can use these other lists to make sure that you're taking these people off the rolls. And that's why we are going to end up obviously having the best ever in deceased voters. Again, not that I want to see people die,
Right.
but it's always been there, and it's huge to see that. So I'm very, very, very happy to see that.
Yeah, well, and maintaining voter rolls and maintaining that list, it's an ongoing process. It's not just a one and done, because people do die, unfortunately, every day. We have felons, people are convicted of crimes. We
Yes.
have people move out of state, and we have our two biggest cities here in the state of Missouri that border other states, obviously St. Louis and Illinois and Kansas City and with Kansas. And we have a lot of people that move back and forth across those state lines.
That's right.
However, I know I've moved a few times, and the last thing that was on my mind when I moved, I need to cancel my voter registration at the place I
Right.
moved at.
Yes.
And so were you surprised as far as how many voters we've taken off of the voter or ineligible voters, or whether they've moved, whether they've been deceased, whether they're felons? I mean, were you surprised at how many?
I'm actually baffled.
Yes.
I mean, and I don't mean that in a. And again, when I say these things, it's nothing against anyone. It's just the fact that it's not that maybe different secretaries had different
Right. Different
ideologies
priorities.
and different priorities. And so this is the priority right now. And yeah, I was very surprised. I was just like, wow, because I'm not trying to brag on Pettis County, but we really made sure that we did everything humanly possible to make sure that, we're always, keeping the deceased people off. You're going to miss a few. You're never going to have anything perfect. And I
Right.
always tell people that, elections will never be perfect. There's never a perfect election. But what I can tell you that the people, the local election authorities and the poll workers, they're true patriots.
That's right.
They really are. And they're on the forefront, and they're in the trenches. You're always getting hit every which way. In 2020, I remember when the post office lost our ballots.
Yes.
And it was a disaster. And I was like, oh my gosh. And sure enough, we were the only county they lost our ballots. And I'm like, what is going to happen? And, you just never know what's going to happen with elections. And I always said what I've learned is that it's Murphy's Law. Anything you don't think can happen will happen in elections.
Right.
And so you just got to just keep fighting forward because, we believe in this. And so right now, utilizing these tools such as, like I said, the Death Master List and DHSS, and another huge topic is when I first came here, I've always known about this issue is duplicates.
Right.
And duplicates is very, 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 very big issue. And
Right.
so when you have a duplicate, people are wondering, well, what's a duplicate? And a duplicate is that, if you had Nick Lestrada or Nicholas Lestrada, and then when you have someone that's working the voter registration and they accidentally create you twice
Yes.
because, Nicholas or Nick, and then ends up becoming two voters. So how I learned about duplicates myself is when we send out our voter registration cards, and I'll never forget a lady came up, she goes, why do I got two cards? And I'm like, I don't know, maybe
Right.
maybe we printed out two. So
Right.
I kind of started investigating this thing. It's 2012, I'll never
Yes.
forget it. And I looked at the voter ID number and I'm like, she's got two different voter ID numbers.
Right.
And then that's where it kind of dawned on me.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, goodness gracious, there are duplicates.
Right.
So something I want to really brag on for this administration is that we are, as of January 13th, there was 4,000 duplicates. We're down right now as we speak to 212.
That's pretty good.
It's 99.995%.
Yes.
And so that is unbelievable because once you have two, because what a duplicate can do is that you can get someone to vote twice.
Right.
So I'm a firm believer of that. I would much rather have someone merge or mismerged or whatever and vote a provisional ballot and still have that vote count.
Yes.
Making sure that you're training the local election authorities to merge these voters.
Right.
And it just happens. And so I think that it is, good dialect and good communication, letting them know, hey, we got to get these people merged. And regardless if it's, the fact that if it's deleted or active, we still need to merge it. So, key points when I first came in was, the big areas, of course, St. Louis County, and Kansas City. And so, working with them and all those areas. And, it's, again, I've worked with these people.
Right.
And it's interesting because they have Republican and Democrat directors. And, they don't care. I mean, they know who I am and, and so they actually already have an office made up for me. So when I walk in, it's kind of funny. But, and I really do appreciate that because I think at first it was more of like, well, is Nick going to come in here and try to tell us what to do? I'm
Right.
like, hey, I'm just here to help.
That's right.
And they really appreciate that.
And I've heard that from a lot of clerks that have been very appreciative of you reaching out to them. You mentioned how many new clerks do we have? About 40%?
Yeah, about 40%.
Yeah, 40%. And so a lot of these new clerks, they've never maintained the voter rolls. Some of them if they were just newly elected in 2024, haven't run an election yet.
Yes.
And so just you bringing that hands-on experience and being a resource for them, that's what I talked about in the new administration. Hey, we want to be a resource for our county clerks and our local election authorities, and that's why your experience is invaluable.
Yeah, it is. And I learned from them too.
Right.
And it's funny, especially moving forward, especially with this administration, we're at the pivotal time as we move into SAVE, as we're,
Yes.
people are all, they could think whatever they want about SAVE. And I really want to emphasize about SAVE. And for people that don't understand what SAVE is the systematic alien verification of entitlements. Mm-hmm. And what it is, it's a flag. It's a flag if you can potentially be an illegal. So we are making sure, number one, we're taking our time and doing our due diligence.
Yes.
And we're learning from different states. And this is a huge time, as before it would cost like $6 a voter.
Yes.
Now we have it for free.
That's right.
We just got an MOA.
Yeah, the Trump administration has said, hey, we're going to give you this information for free. We're going to let you upload your voter registration so we can compare it to the SAVE database.
That's right.
For free.
Secretary Hoskins was jumping all over it.
Yes.
I love it. And
yeah.
I was like, wow. So, and this was when, I'll be honest, it was a learning experience for me, myself, because when you're in our VR system and even talking to other senior
VR
clerks,
system, voter registration system.
voter registration system. Once you verify your voter through SSA and you verify your voter through DMV, you're like, oh, well, they're citizens.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, they're not.
Right.
They're not always citizens. So
That's right, because we do have some folks that are here in the state of Missouri. They're here legally,
Yes.
so they have a green card. but they are not citizens.
That's right.
And you can only vote if you're a citizen. So you can be here legally in Missouri, but not be eligible to vote.
That's right. Yeah, and it's something that really woke me up. So getting the SAVE database and then working with USCIS, and that's U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, they have been really good to work with.
Right.
And so we got picked to do a pilot, and because right now they're just it used to be that you had to have like a passport or some sort of a numerization number.
Right.
Unfortunately, we didn't have that because it doesn't require that on our voter registration card. So it got down to the full social. And so now we're down to the 4.
Yes.
So we get this email that we just got picked to be a pilot, and I'm like, we're in.
Right.
And so this has been neat because not only that, working with the elections division and making sure, looking at other states, that it is about due process. Mm-hmm. So I want to emphasize about SAVE. SAVE is a flagger.
Right.
And we're not going to purge, we're not going to delete, and we're working with the local election authorities, calling them, sending them emails, and we just got done updating our Missouri voter registration templates of if somebody, once they fill out the actual voter registration card, they could have very easily marked no. Or they didn't mark any of the boxes.
Right.
So it's about sending them a letter, giving them that in particular time, which would be 7 days if they marked as a non-citizen, because we don't know if they very well could be a naturalized citizen.
Right.
Now. So as of today, we have we've deleted. Well, the local election authorities have already deleted a little over 200 people that are not naturalized.
Right.
And I'm going to make sure we emphasize this. They have not voted, by the way.
Yes.
So, and this is not this is new. This is a tool that we just got.
Right.
So, people have got to realize that, this is new, brand new.
Yes.
And so, as the secretary, you jumped right on it. You were on the forefront. You were not playing around. I think we had the MOA accomplished in March, if I remember correctly.
That's right.
And, and I remember sitting in on the meetings. I was like, man, $6 a voter. Next thing I know, this thing is just rolling over and it's for free.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, we have got to use this. So I was a little like, how do we make this phone call and let these local election authorities know what we're doing? Because I think that we see the news media out there as saying that SAVE is this and SAVE is that. Mm-hmm. Hey, guys. It's just a flagger.
Right.
We're going to do due process.
Right.
We're doing above and beyond. We're going to give them that opportunity to prove their case. So that's what we're in the mix of doing right now. And I tell you what, it doesn't matter what party that I have talked to, when calling. We haven't had one issue.
Right.
Not one issue with the local election authorities.
They've been great. Local election authorities have been great. And I know you brought up, using the SAVE database, and then I always use this analogy as well. And I say, hey, we don't want somebody from Missouri moving to Kansas and then still voting in Missouri elections. And I can guarantee you that Kansas don't want anybody that moved from Kansas to Missouri but still crosses the state line and comes back over into Kansas to vote. And so we're working with other states too, as far as MOUs, Memorandum of Understandings, and so we can compare and contrast our voter rolls with their voter rolls to make sure that we don't have somebody that is registered in both states is voting in both states.
Yes, yeah, that's it's a huge issue.
That's right. It is.
and that's something that we've already, like you said, we've already done some MOAs there, and it happens. And it's funny because this past election, it was interesting in California, believe it or not, and I'll just say because it's the truth. Because they have all mail ballot state. I literally had to be on the phone with the state of California. Sorry, I'm going to rant a little bit here.
You're good.
And I'm on the phone with the registrar person, and they would not take this lady off the list.
Right.
So there are true good people that are good voters that were like, I want to get off this list, but they won't let me get off the list. Mm-hmm. So finally, I had to do everything humanly possible.
Right.
I'm like, take this lady off the list.
Right.
She hasn't lived in California for the past 7 years. Finally, we got, she got to be taken off the list. So it's just interesting that, you see different states and how they do things. But I tell you what, here in Missouri, we are, pretty tight. We're very tight. And it's huge.
For your convenience, we've split this episode into 2 parts. This is part 1. Be sure to check out part 2, available now on your podcast app or on YouTube.